Hello and welcome. My name is Roxy. I am the director and architect of the Design Science Studio. Nico.
I am Nico, in the Imagineer.
We are but two of many of an incredible team that has been working tirelessly and maybe tiredly to bring you all together, but with so much joy in our hearts because of what we're all creating together. And the greater than the sum of our parts, for sure, but every different voice so important. And we hope that wherever you're tuning in from, if this is your morning, good morning. If this is your afternoon, well, good afternoon. Welcome to Regeneration Rising, day 3. This is our second planetary salon of the day. And there's been a ton of incredible content. I think the last few hours have just been wild. Tom Chi, an incredible beaming session that happened with Tara Botswani and the whole crew out there. I mean, just so many highlights. Actually, Evo, have you been out there in the world? How's it been going?
It has been amazing. I got to Topia to do a live art tour. I got to some of the Zoom sessions, from the Vision Train to Ada's session earlier today, which blew my mind. That was such a beautiful escape of the ego. And I've just enjoyed every conversation so far.
Yes. So good. Yeah, the first 3 collaboratory presentations kicked off today. That was one of them. It was also Claudia Brenner and Casey House. Epic. So many epic people. How's the Vision Train? I popped on last night. And actually, no, Mel gave a talk on the Vision Train today, I believe. If you all haven't visited Mel, well, definitely visit. Nico, where can we find Mel again?
We can find Mel by entering the Topia world. He is in the art district. We will be sending links tonight to all attendees on how to enter the Topia world and explain more tomorrow. But you can, from there, access his live Zoom. And I believe he also has created some events on Presence where you can enter directly through the event. Just look for Mel Andringa and his ship.
Well, these are just a few little snippets. There's so many good ones. And today, in the next few hours, we're going to have some of my favorite humans from the studio and some new, I'm sure, favorite humans who are coming to join us. But first, what we're going to do is kick it off in proper Design Science Studio fashion, give ourselves a little moment to just move our bodies, take a few breaths. So once this slide goes down, I'm going to play a song, and I just want to invite you to stand up or move around and give yourself the opportunity to not think or talk, just be wiggly, be in your body. And so I'm going to push play and just, if there's all the bones of celebration for the futures that we're weaving together, the lessons that we're learning, just give yourself a little bit of time to move.
Science Studio!
Hello, little one. Giving yourself a moment to just feel all the energy that you just built in your body. Take a deep breath, hold, and then open mouth, exhale. Again, deep breath in, hold, open mouth, exhale. Now rubbing your hands together, building the energy in your body, your feet, calling in your hope for the future, starting now. And then on the count of 3, place your hands somewhere in your spirit that needs some love. 1, 2, 3. Do that one more time. This time, let's send it out to all the creators who've been working so hard to create this space together. 1, 2. And for this last one, we're going to shoot our hands, one in front and one in the back. So one is to the future and one is to the past. So one is to our ancestors, all those who've come before, and then all of those future generations that we're creating for, forwards for. Ready? Building it up. 1, 2. Thank you all. Giving yourselves this time before we go on into some really delightful, wonderful adventures for the rest of the night. So,
Rox, I know
Nico,
you haven't said anything, but do you like my new style? It's called biophilia.
I really like it.
It's called biophilia, and when you get a bit of sun, and then you just touch plants, and you connect, and you plant your finger in the earth, and you start becoming nature. It works.
Cool.
It's really nice. It's better than tanning.
So if I just see.
Do you see that?
It's working. See that? It's working.
All right.
Shall we?
I'm gonna share my screen. I think we have a couple of things to say.
Couple things to say, couple things to share.
Okay. I'm not gonna practice reading your mind, so whenever you want me to pass a slide, just lift your finger or something.
Deal. You kick us off, Nico. What are we doing here?
What are we doing here? We're doing a mix of cultural magic and fun adventure and very serious endeavor and all mixed with a kind of school, and it looks a little bit like Hogwarts, but with different kind of magic. And basically what we're doing at the Design Science Studio is incubating art for the Regenaissance. And the Regenaissance is it's a word that we discovered at some point, and it was that word is very good word. It really describes what we're feeling right now. And oftentimes it happens that we don't have enough words to describe the things that are going on. There's new feelings that arise and new things, and Regenaissance is basically this idea that the world is about to change drastically, and that the artists have or hold some of the keys of that drastic change, and that as it has happened throughout history, they're going to be able to envision some of the changes that are needed to change the world. And so it's happening. It's happening that many artists around the world are feeling this call and creating art that is more regenerative. And we usually define regenerative as giving back more than you take. And that's our like driving principle in what we do at the studio. And what we want to do is encourage and mentor and fund artists who have this very same principle in mind. We're basically mentoring and scaffolding and funding when we can at least 144 creators, multidisciplinary artists from all over the world every year. And we intend to do this every year, at least for a decade. And basically, we're just giving them a way to think different. And we're getting them together, and we're like through a period of several months, we're teaching them things and then preparing them for what you are experiencing right now. Which is this showcase of the work they have been incubating during all these months. That is regenerative work for a world that works for 100% of life.
I'm going to touch in on something slightly here. When you say that it's regenerative, you know, one of the things that I learned most closely through studying regeneration is that it's all about understanding the system that you're a part of. It's understanding the greater system that you're embedded within. And what we found out was that, you know, if we try to build the capacity of the system, all the creators in the system, then we'll be able to do so much more for this movement as a community. So that's what we've been inside of, and really born of this time of radical change, because this is just no longer the place and the space that we can be within. And we're moving forward. We're moving into a different way of being, a way that is interconnected and interwoven with nature. This Regenaissance is helping to dissolve those barriers of separation. And through work, you know, it's like, yes, we see the positive visions of the future, and we're helping to propel towards them by going through, not around, but really through and uplifting in that process. And so this new narrative is emergent, and it is there. And we're like rallying up and taking arms with all of these different multidisciplinary creators from all around the world, and people who are on the mission with us as well. So in this space, the studio was born. And the Buckminster Fuller, who I'm sure, as you all know at this point, or if you don't know who Buckminster Fuller is, he's a great guy. He was a great guy. There's actually a really beautiful story that I didn't know until we were deep in the studio, which so the studio is a program of the Buckminster Fuller Institute in partnership with Habitual. So that's Nico and I and a bunch of our team. And then the Buckminster Fuller Institute, we forged a bond and moved forward. And our partners with the Buckminster Fuller Institute, namely Amanda Joy and Faith Flanagan, are just huge, you know, obviously people who are moving the legacy of Bucky forward in a huge way. And I thought I knew some things about him, but through this process, I think it was actually Ada Paris, maybe through a conversation with Ada and a conversation with Nico, I think maybe in the same day, I learned that Bucky actually almost killed himself. And it was in the moment of his suicide that he received a download that was like, no. You have big things to do. You are important, and you cannot do this. And so he decided to make it his mission to see how much one human could do in his lifetime. And wow, did he make some ripples, some of which we're picking back up today. He had this vision that, with, of course, all of his work was very much backed by many scientists, and he was an architect in practice. But yeah, just seeing that truly we had all the right tools. We made them for all the wrong reasons, but we had everything we needed in the course of a decade to turn things around. And we've reinvigorated that vision. in alignment with, there's a lot of other missions that are happening right now at the same time. There's the decade of ecosystem restoration, there's sustainable development goals. And this decade, this design science decade, was short for comprehensive anticipatory design science. It's a methodology, a framework to help us move through this transition to actually shift to a world that works for all, which is what all of the creators and everyone who's joined us on this mission is pointing their creative effort towards, shifting to a future that's equitable and just. So this is that time, that rekindling that we're inside of.
And we have the clear understanding that every social and systemic change starts with a story. There's always a spark. There is a moment in which somebody says, this is not entirely right. There is something that we must do about this. Let's talk about it. And let's talk about it through art. I'm going to express myself on the things that either I don't like of the current system or that I think could be done better. And I'm going to show the path. And this is what creators and thinkers and artists do, is the 1% that will just go there into a known territory and try to figure it out. And they will outline and pave the way for everybody else that will come follow. And so that's our goal. Our goal is to just find who are those trailblazers that are seeing the changes that are needed and that are willing to speak for them, and that to create mimetic structures. And I'm not referring only to the memes that you see on your Facebook, but like a meme is something that has the capacity to spread. It's an idea that can spread, and that if we create enough of this and we repeat it enough times and we make them sexy enough, those ideas that we're talking about will spread enough that they will become the norm. And so, yeah, we're definitely going through a very important time in human history. A lot of things are happening. A lot of things will be changing in the next decade. And as Baki Fuller also said, it's going to be a tight race until the very last moment to decide if it's going to be utopia or oblivion. And so it's on us to really, load our poetry guns and to come out there to spread positivity and better ideas of how we can do in this world. And as we say, it's time for art that changes history.
It's another thing that comes to mind, which is all about seeing potential instead of problems. It's another good kind of regenerative design fundamental principle. And it isn't all fun and games. It's definitely not all peachy on the process. There's a lot that we're moving through right now that's really challenging, and yet like finding a way to move forward in light of the potential future that we're moving towards. It's what we're all trying to sense make together. And so there's never one complete vision without the sum of its parts. And is it ever really complete? Maybe not. But I think that with all of these different voices working on different parts, this interconnected web makes buoyancy for everything. And so together we're envisioning this future and this transition. And so we're moving towards it as a community and as a global family. So I love this phrase, to transform our collective capacity and create a harmonic future. We must first envision it. And so we are envisioning it with 144 creators and partners coming in, and a lot of other thought leaders and different people who just really believe that we can move through this together, through this sense of belonging. And every single different one of these individuals has worked so hard their whole lives to bring forth that which they are crystallizing in some way during this week. And so we just really want to encourage you to take the time and reach out to your communities and invite them in, because we have 8 days of incredible work, and every single different person is a portal into another solution, an interconnected web of creativity to help us move forward and be a tide that truly raises all ships. And tonight we'll hear from some of them. I'm very excited about.
There is something really amazing that we have been hearing from all the revolutionaries that are part of our first cohort, and is that they have had this feeling of belonging, that they had found their pairs, their tribe, their family. And so I'd love to maybe take 2 minutes, very short, but I'd love to highlight a couple or 3 of them that are here. If you guys want to say something about how you have felt in the studio for like 20 seconds, please raise your hand or unmute yourselves, and let's hear from them too, because I think it's special. Come on, a brave soul. Don't leave me here hanging.
How has your experience been? Stephen. Stephen.
Yeah, it's been amazing to just be working for decades on something that I thought was just a crazy idea. And it was all grounded in how do we manifest love in the universe? And I came across these different ways of, well, it was sort of working, and then something about the way the world worked kind of shut it all down. But when I came into this space, it was just this welcoming, inviting community of reciprocity, where there was this conversation that just kept on bubbling up, this feeling of, yeah, we're all here for the same thing, and it's all, we're manifesting love through art, through music, through our energy. And yeah, it's just been an amazing way of stumbling into a community and finding my tribe.
Yesterday was so much fun. We were in Clubhouse and we were creating music live with poems and people just injecting ideas and coming up with new words. And it was really powerful. Yeah, the power of art. It's so amazing.
And thank
okay,
you,
maybe
Stephen,
one more person.
I just want to also acknowledge Stephen, like, has been such a consistent pulse throughout the entire studio, and has given so much creativity, and has facilitated and has really just been such a star. So thank you, Stephen, for captaining. He was also one of our captains of our pods. And yes, one of the spokes for sure.
Yeah, that's the part that's been so amazing, is just coming into a space where it's, how can we empower you? How can we give you opportunities that you didn't thought you were capable of doing? And then just celebrating you whenever you step up and come into that space. So it's, yeah, it's the kind of energy that I just wished was everywhere. And I'm sure it will be soon.
Okay, I'm gonna put one person in the spotlight for like a super short another contribution. Tashka, are you there? Can I bring you up? It's okay to say no. You can remain mute if you don't want to.
Well, so many beautiful spirits in here. And one of them is going to be presenting shortly. So we want to give you all just a quick little overview into one of the themes of this transition for this decade, because this is the decade and we have to move quickly together. It is a tight time, but we got this for sure. And so this design science decade is this most concentrated transition that we've ever gone through as humanity, truly. And through this next decade, we have the opportunity to really build a future that works for all. And so the phases are really meant to be themes in some way. If we're future casting and back casting somehow at the same time, really looking towards that future and seeing the steps that we need to take to get there. And so yesterday we went over reconciliation and commitment, and today we're going to dig into what restoration and capital transfer, what some of the general themes are within that, which are so critical to this moment we're in. Tomorrow we'll dig in a little more into resilience and coming together. And then Thursday and Friday for regeneration and celebration and reenchantment and the circularity. Oh, I like this. John doodled on our slide. That was fun. So I'm gonna just do my best to embody this part of the decade, this time when massive tree planting initiatives are flourishing, and we have been working to detoxify the earth. Which is there's bans on pesticides and micro and bioremediation are flourishing and really helping to sequester carbon. And we've been restoring our emotional bodies, both as individuals and also bodies of people, or humans who are living, who have been marginally oppressed, just shifting from into a new state where that's no longer being perpetuated. And money is changing generations. And I love this. Like Nico actually says this. What is the new billionaires that you're
well, billionaire, I think we're gonna go through two phases. Billionaire is gonna shift from people who have many billions to a person that can impact a billion. That's gonna be the first part. And then once we're all there and we have impacted all the 8 billion that we will be soon, then the term billionaire will change. And this is actually in our dictionary for the revolution. A billionaire will be a person that is encouraged and praised and loved by all its peers. And that means that there's going to be, instead of like one person vouching for you yourself, you're going to have 8 billion people vouching for you because we're here and we got each other. And so you're going to become a billionaire.
And you give enough away to stay a millionaire. There's a massive amount of money that is in the hands of very few. And we have more than we need to make sure that everyone is fed and okay. One of our visionaries who came and spoke to the studio, not once, but twice, is Lynn Twist. And she speaks about the shift from an abundance mentality to one of sufficiency. And so that means that we have enough, that we do not need to have so much that we have, storage units on storage units full of stuff when there are people who have nothing, right? Just like shifting to this enoughness, like we are fed, we are held, and together we have enough. And that means that resources can spread, and that like shift is happening. We're living it, and we're embodying it, and we're doing the work together. So that's what this part of the decade is all about. And with that, I am so honored and excited to transition over to introduce a dear friend now and total superhero who has been in the studio from the beginning and has been working just across, just innovating across different immersive and XR and ER platforms for a very, very long time, and is super dedicated to helping to create spaces for new media that can be inclusive, truly inclusive, that platform all voices, not just some, and has really been such a supporter, constantly always like, how can I help? What can we do? Let's do this thing. All right, cutting edge of technology. Let's go. Evo, thank you. We celebrate you. We welcome you. You're the best.
Oh, thank you so much. And I hope that you are seeing these slides and hearing me well here today. It is such an honor to be here with you, Roxy and Nico. Nico, thank you for speaking into something that I know you and I share from part of our graduate work at Singularity. How do we impact a billion lives? And specifically, how do we create regenerative systems that help a billion help another and help another and help another? And so this is a type of regenerative systems design that we've all been working on together. And there's a piece of that puzzle that fits together with, I'm a producer. Many of those who are here, including Roxy and Nico, are creators and writers and producers and directors. And we're figuring out how to weave together our stories in new ways. And as we've discussed in a number of the sessions that you'll hear, but also throughout the now 7 months that we've been in the Design Science Studio, we're exploring how these things fit together. And I loved this graphic that came in one of the slide decks that Roxy and Nico shared, because it began thinking about how meta narratives fit together, right? So there are aspects of biomimicry, resiliency and design, using nature to inspire throughout different types of media types. We're thinking about how these things connect together. And on the same side, we're thinking about metaverses. And this is a term that I am very familiar with from VR, AR, XR work. I worked originally on the metaverse roadmap back in 2005, back at Stanford University. And so those of us who've been creating in virtual spaces and virtual worlds for now going on 20 years have been figuring out some of the aspects of how interactivity and how immersion bring people together to have experiences they couldn't otherwise have. And so what you're seeing here in this metaverse, this is Second Life back in 2008, I believe, with Kofi Annan and an art show that I produced with the UN called Visions of Global Justice. And so figuring out how to connect social and open spaces, right? A metaverse, or metaverses plural, if you want to think of it as connected worlds within worlds, these are social and open spaces. And some of them are available on the web. Some of them are more in VR spaces, but they all reflect something that we're going to speak about more broadly as metamedia. And metamedia takes many different forms. So I'm going to sort of bust out the different types of ways in which metamedia fit into what we are becoming as a public commons together, because this is all how interactivity and immersion create collaborative virtual experiences. So to step back a little bit, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am and what I do. I've been a tech and media founder now for over 20 years. I started a special effects company in Hollywood that's now working on a project that you will hear about later in the Star Wars universe. I have been creating both in virtual worlds, but also in physical and hybrid immersive experiences now for the better part of 20 years. And specifically since COVID, we've been looking at how to hack collaboration. And so that's part of why I wanted to come to the DSS, to the Design Science Studio, and specifically to figure with this group, how do we hack collaboration, and specifically why, right? Because we're seeing, this is, for example, Travis Scott and Fortnite. These kinds of virtual experiences are shared by millions of people, but they're often very light interactivity without a deeper inquiry. And so I, like others here at the Design Science Studio, wanted to bring in that deeper inquiry and then think about how it affects us. How do we create culture together? How do we create media together? How do we participate? And this is a big part of the invitation to play that is part of Regenera and Regenera City, Regenera Art, as you've been hearing about from Roxy, Nico, and all of us who will try and pull you into the Topia, our new art city experiences. I personally believe that we are moving to participatory media networks. And that is a massive shift from passive to active media. And we've already seen this in video gaming, for example. But now we're going
Not every day can architecture students shape a culturally important site in another country they've never been to merely by sending their avatars to work over the internet.
This Kansas to Cairo program has been amazing. It captures the spirit of President Obama's speech in Cairo way back in 2009. Hi, I'm William May with the U.S. State Department's International Information Programs. Supporting the students and teachers in this virtual and physical exchange has been an incredible opportunity for us to bring together youth from different countries and bridge cultures. The virtual world allowed students not only to learn about architecture, but more importantly, they learned about themselves. Solid public diplomacy.
More than 30 students from the University of Southern California in Los Angeles and Ain Shams University in Cairo, Egypt, use the whole palette of Web 2.0 social networking tools to collaborate on a 70-acre site that
perspectively looks toward the pyramids between the new Grand
House. And that is what we are here to discuss. Specifically, what does it mean to be meta, and what is a meta movie? What is meta media? So meta, if we're going to step back a little bit more and the sort of meanings of what is meta, it is a conversation and a participation in a storyline that sort of eats itself. So if you're thinking about a metaverse, it is a virtual space that is shared by a group of people, and that might be digitally rendered, that might be including some sort of spatial and physical place. And because this blends between the hybrid, the physical, and what happens in a headset or on your mobile phone, the invitation to participate in that experience is very important. So the questions around who can come to the table become vital, because at the end of the day, if you're trying to do collaboration or systems change in any sort of virtual space, you have to figure out who are the stakeholders, how are you inviting them in to participate, do they all have a voice in that ecosystem? And then that informs things like platform choices, whether you're on the open web and using something like Mozilla Hubs, or a space that is in an open XR environment versus something that might be closed off or only appropriate for certain types of groups. So I produce a wide variety of virtual events. We've had to work across a number of different platforms. This one, for example, gives a very different feeling than what you just saw in AltSpace. This is a place called Nowhere. And what we were doing with Nowhere is specifically performance and theater related to empathy, related to the human experience. But in this case, this was a meditation. And so you get to the long tunnel, and at the very end of this long tunnel, you see a gentleman named Salon, and I think I have pronounced his name wrong, and Heidi here, and they're having a meditation experience, which later became a workshop and a performance. And so figuring out how to design these spaces for interactivity, for participation, in this case for Black meditation, and an honoring of the intimacy of this man who chose to meditate with his back to the audience so that they could understand his experience as well. So I work on a lot of different platforms. I work on a lot of different formats. And a lot of what we've been doing in the Design Science Studio is figuring out how to take these formats. Let's take a panel, let's take a talk show, let's take an interview, let's take a narrative or a meta-narrative and make it available for people in a new way. There are a lot of ways to do that, and we're not going to go into all of the sort of meta layers of that, but I want you to understand that that turns into conferences such as what's happening here with IEEE and VR, which happens inside Mozilla Hubs. It also translates across metaverses. So starting in 2005, I started designing and writing a speculative fiction world. It's called Manor Meta. And what you're seeing here were some of the first drawings, the first sort of 3D animatics that I did in Second Life. Now, when I think of what is meta, I'm going back now 20 years through virtual experiences that brought together artists and performers and social impact leaders and billionaires to figure out how do we crack open a problem and then address it together. And that is a larger story because we're all connected. And the ways in which we've been connected also create something that is much more like a 4D or a 5D media network. It doesn't operate in a linear way, the way we expect a narrative on Netflix to operate, but these are interactive storylines, and that creates what we are now seeing as the future of media. For example, this panel at CES, which included some of the folks who won the Producers Guild Award this week for innovation, our friends at BRC VR. And so we're creating, this is the same platform we're going to be using for Pride XR. And you can see here a little bit, I've been doing this, this is from a talk from 2009, but I want you to understand that some of these things do fold in on themselves. Meta and what we now know as metaverses have been discussed for the better part of 20 years as places for virtual collaboration. And whether it's in a film, about a film, like Birdman, for example, or in the world of gaming, meta can mean most effective tactics available, but it can also be short for meta game. And a meta game, you're thinking about the information about the game which is derived from the world. Now, if you can imagine taking that out to 20 different worlds and how that can begin to create these nexus of experience zones. Right now, the metaverses are not connected. And so one environment doesn't necessarily easily connect to the others, and one embodiment doesn't easily connect to the others. And so we end up with very disconnected experiences. The future of the metaverses that we are describing here is much more of a plural and regenerative vision, because that experience comes from the people who choose to create it that way. And so how? And this is beautiful art, by the way, inside Regenaissance, which I highly recommend that you check out if you haven't already done so, from Nico and Roxy and the virtual team. Let me make sure I pronounce that correctly. At the end of the day, interactivity empowers agency in the audience. And so whether we're talking about a meditation experience in a virtual world that drove friendships for 15 years, or we're talking about a festival, or we're talking about a new type of metastructure. If you think of Design Science Studio as a metastructure, we have just planted the seed for what will become the Design Science decade. This is a biomimicry work in process, and these are all experiments to figure out how do we connect and how do we tell that story more effectively. So play creates flow. These are the flow states that we are seeking to enable in people, and that includes playing in lots of different metaverses. Because at the end of the day, we are the media. We are the ones who create media channels. And if we're thinking about it as something other than ourselves, right, separate from ourselves, we're not fully owning our power. And so recognizing that we are collaborators in our own futures, we become the artists and we become the active creators in that space. So I've been lucky to do a lot of different conferences over the last year, over 500 hours of live streaming. And one of the ones I got to host last month was an event called Show Up Events. And I wanted to show you this in particular because of something we did around graphic recording. Now, most conferences before the pandemic might have used this kind of thing in terms of graphic recording to capture a panel or a conversation, in this case, with some colleagues in the location-based experience market. I wanted to show you this because I want you to see what this looks like inside a real-time interactive virtual event. In this case, streaming connected to a hop-in experience, because there are lots of ways we can use these interactive mechanisms for sense making, for collaboration, for helping people do more in terms of being generative and regenerative together. And where we do that can be anywhere, right? You've seen on my background that we're using many different virtual worlds. We also use tools like Miro, and within the Design Science Studio, we're using open web spaces, what you've seen here with Mozilla Hubs. And we're gonna explore that a little bit more on Friday when I go into deeper the stories of the meta movie. Because at the end of the day, these are all spaces where we get to create regenerative play together. And I want to hear what types of play you want to create. So if you imagine my spec-fic world as an infinite canvas for gameplay, and you've got a game that you think fits into my world, I want to hear about it. And I want to link to you, because if I'm creating a nexus that creates a library of all those places and those links and those games and opportunities, I want to make sure people are finding those meta connections with us. So I hope that you're going to join us for the rest of the Regenera, and specifically Regenera Rising salons throughout the week. I'm going to share more on the meta movie on Friday, and I welcome you to come and join me for that section as well. But whether you're thinking about how to connect with your audience or the people that you're creating with, for example, this long time work, which was back again in Second Life for the Museum of the Holocaust Memorial Museum. There are ways in which metaverses can connect people to experiences that are both deeply intimate and are powerful and are collaborative, but are also triggering. And so I'm going to lead us out here with a conversation from Amanda Raven. This is from BRCVR this year. So, between the silver linings, I love looking at the positive side of things and seeing the possibility talking about grief. That also comes from intimacy with depression and anxiety and knowing just how sad and what she's speaking to in terms of intimacy in virtual spaces. And 100 people at the time. What you see there is her wiping away her tears in VR and people expressing their love for that story. I'm going to leave a link for this video because there is a full hour-long talk that Amanda gave at BRCVR, which includes some of the soul of capital and how we think is also really powerful, regenerative in our daily lives. So I hope that you will continue to share with us your opportunities for interactivity or immersion, but that you also think through how these things together into a larger metaphor.
It's hard to hear you. The sound overlaps with the, if you can, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and hit it off, but I just want to make sure to thank all of the artists here who've been a part of both this presentation and then what you will see on Friday. Which is a little bit previewed behind me in terms of the meta movie. So I'm happy to explore with all of you how all of these pieces fit together. At the end of the day, we are all creating this meta narrative together. We are not separate from it. And these are all aspects that we get to design together as we design the future of the public media we want. So I'm encouraging your questions. I hope that you'll hit me up at Playable Agency if you have any ideas and ways in which that we can collaborate. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was incredible.
That was a beautiful presentation.
The metaverses and the multiverses. We're about to get into very, very, very interesting times, and it's gonna lead us to rethink much of who we are, because the ways in which we can communicate and live spaces are changing, and it's only just starting, just thinking 10 or 20 years when we are like living inside of virtual realities and we're able to share our thoughts and we're able to create anything that you can really imagine and trick the brain enough to think you're there. Things are gonna get pretty wild. And I think we are really on a path in which we need to prepare for what's coming. We really do, because if we don't approach these new technologies that are coming and our relationship with like artificial intelligences and everything that's going to happen in the next decade, which is going to accelerate exponentially, I think we really need to set the ground. And so that's why this movement that is emerging, that is reconnecting us back to nature and to like each other, and to really like understanding technology as a tool and not as a medium. And it's as I said, it's going to be very important that we prepare ourselves for what's coming, and only if we do it that way, we'll be able to just make the best out of all these things that so far are a little bit overwhelming, and they're transforming how we interact with each other and how we, you know, how society works. And but I do believe that we can get a hold of those and like take over and like just manage the narrative. And within that, I want to introduce you to our next speaker, which it's probably one of the most prepared persons on this planet to do these tasks. And it's a person that I deeply admire, and that I believe is a true visionary. It's one of those people that you run into, and like just by being in their presence and listening to what they have to say and how they see the world, your entire system gets transformed. I'm talking about Seth Bantin. He is an ontological designer, which is a word that I learned from him and that I use now to define the work I do. And his work expands into many different places, but I would say that probably has two foundations, which are experiences and spaces. And so his work is about transforming and using all the tools that he has that go from lighting to decoration to architecture to words and narratives and music and his great intelligence to transform people and to create spaces that are more conducive to life. And so it's a great honor to have him being part of the studio and being a friend and an ally and a guide. He's gonna speak a little bit about his new endeavor called The Canvas, which is holding with a few other friends, and what they're doing is really unbelievable, and I can't wait for you to experience a little bit of his brain. Seth, all yours.
Thank you, Nico. I love you, brother. Hi, everyone. Wow, just a lot of really just continuously seeing beautiful insights and theories and methodologies coming out of the studio and out of the creations that have happened within it. And Evo, thank you so much. You know, you help flag the potential and the beauty in what's possible in what's inevitably coming, right? And me so often look at a presentation like that, or see some news article or some Wired magazine article about the future of digital shared experiences and world building and VR and where, you know, AI and biofeed, this is all going, and can be incredibly overwhelming. And the potential in the space is only limited by our narrative that we have about what's coming, and again, what's inevitably coming. But I am really interested actually in the like why are we driven towards those like more connection through digital? Like, what is that? Why do we do that? And I think that you know, my journey began really probably in early grade school when I was foregoing paying attention to class while I organized recess for hours before we would go out to recess, so that my friends had a whole system of how they would play together. And that kind of has continued for the next 25 years of my life. And so if you ask my dad what I do, I organize. It's really what I do. I organize shit. But at its core, it's really looking at how we share experiences together, and how we connect, and how we grow together. And so just in what Evo has shared just now, the why for me, it really started to come online in my early 20s, why we were moving to digital experiences in such a significant way. I remember, and I haven't told this story in a long time. I used to tell it in keynotes that I would give when I was building VR content. And that's back actually where I met Evo, is 6-7 years ago, and focused on spatial web and VR and AR and all this shit. And I had a thing come online where I was like, wait, I started to think about dolphins. And like, if you think about a dolphin, and we know that they use this thing called echolocation that we kind of picture in our heads as almost like a sonar, right? And so some sound vibration goes out and hits a surface and comes back in, and we see that as like some printed page or topography map, because that's how we experience sonar. But in reality, that experience is coming back, or that information is coming back into that dolphin as its experience. But what's really fascinating about that is the dolphin's ability to then turn to the rest of the pod and repeat through echolocation the experience that they just had. So it's just a fantastic display of hive mind at a just in one of the top ways in which species have evolved. And so we, being kind of behind on that ability to share experiences, both from an empathetic standpoint, but also just from an information standpoint, are going to innately want to drive towards better tools that drive towards more and greater shared experiences. So that's really what jazzes me up. And part of that, and when we think about building worlds, like, right, and Evo's talking about meta narratives, these worlds and these large story structures, whether you see it through the combination of like a story universe like Star Wars that comes out in feature films and then opens up into theme parks, these story worlds take immense organization and immense systems to stand up. And so often and for a very long time, we've had industries of scale that hold these processes. And yet those industries are changing, and the environments by which all of this is changing, all this occurs is changing. And so my exploration in the last few years has been both how do these shared experiences happen, where are they happening, is there a way to denote locations both digitally, but more so in person? What does live events look like at festivals, and then locations that we're gathering? So I'm actually going to read really quick a thing that we wrote called the Experience Highway. And it's just kind of a little philosophical narrative that runs us through a bit of our work and really a bit about what we care about. With that, I will just begin to read this. This is going to take a few minutes, and by the end of it, might have a little bit better context, and then I'll share a few more things and get out of your hair. So we begin in British Columbia, down the west coast of the United States, wrapping around the tip of Baja and into greater Mexico. Further, we journey into the jungles of Guatemala, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica, crossing the Caribbean further east into the Atlantic high seas. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, crossing the Caribbean coast into the Gulf of Mexico and around the Florida Panhandle, to greater upstate New York, eastern Canada, and pushing further east into the Atlantic high seas. We arrive in Portugal and wrap into the Spanish coasts, through the Mediterranean, and on to the banks of Tel Aviv. Jumping south, we've journeyed halfway around the world from where we began, and sit in the sacredness of the Polynesian tapestry. We rise up to see the entirety of Southeast Asia, and even further up to planetary view, where we see the thread continuing to weave all around the planet. Everywhere we look, nomadic and sustainably driven communities are assembling around one of the most spectacular land-based highways in the world. Cultures throughout history used to connect down the banks of rivers, through valleys, and over mountains and more. And similarly, technology and global connectivity has allowed new ways by which we can stay connected, stay in motion, and feel more at home in numerous different places. So, the ways in which we connect these locations together, and the way we design the systems that take us in between, whether that's digital highway systems that allow us to find shared experiences, or the actual systems to take us place to place. How we collaborate and cohere is really how it's the importance of this. So when we look at this, we think about this process of creating communities, and I think often we hear about communities being built, but community can't be built. It grows. And human connection is the fabric of any great community. And like anything organic, its growth happens through a pulse and a repetition in the way that the community or the natural subject and its participants gather and do its work. So different communities inspire different ways of being and ways of making impact in the world. And most communities, though, lack these systems for interoperation with other communities, and often the only way to find out what these communities are, if you want to take part in them, is to maybe go to their Facebook page or their website and see whatever they deem necessary to share. And so what we're looking at in many ways is how to create more efficient systems by which not just a community or some idea of some global community that's happening, but communities, how they can function together, and how they can create efficiencies and create interoperabilities. And so the reason that I shared this first, and this was, I kind of sidetracked a little bit because it's a little bit longer and probably might take us down a rabbit hole, but why I shared that is that to me, what's most important is creating the scaffolding by which creators that are coming online in modern times that have a field of different talents. And we see this perfectly within the Design Science Studio. When we create the efficiencies by which those creators can create and collaborate together, the potential of the work is immense. And so I'm going to share two pieces of media. One is actually going to kind of introduce the canvas. It's going to give a vague backdrop of what we look at the canvas as being. Ultimately, when we talk about the canvas, we're talking about a system of interoperability between locations, mainly land-based. So we're creating a kind of portfolio of locations that all tie together, hold specific community models, but there really are kind of brain that will initiate more of an open source model on how we actually create efficiencies and collaborations across many communities in the world. And so first I'm going to share a piece about the canvas. Actually, I'm going to share a bit of a video I made first for Presence, which is another ecosystem that I'm sure all of you have moved through in getting to the Design Science Studio. Now, Presence was created by Damien Madre, a really beautiful human being and partner in kind of life journey for me and many on this call. But the idea of Presence and Damien's kind of theory was that a shared experience is what fires off a community. And so if we can create efficiencies in operations for those experiences, then what we're really doing is driving coherence and ultimately better behaviors across those communities. And so Damien built a technology platform that really drives people into shared experiences, doesn't try to capitalize on their time, just as a pivot tool. It's a switchboard, if you will. And so I'm going to share a bit about why we built Presence, and it's in a video, and then I'm going to share a bit about Canvas. It's in a video. They're both 2 minutes, and then I'm going to be over and out. But the messages also showcase imagery from a bunch of different people that we've and projects that we've either worked on, helped build, our friends are building, or in our pipelines. This is all kind of over, and some of these projects you're going to recognize because they're some of the coolest experiential projects in the world. So with that said, I will go ahead and share my screen quick and bounce over to a video. Where are we at? Sorry, team. This is me being a little unprepared.
You might need to reshare it, my dear, because you need to share computer audio and click the optimize for video button.
All right, let's see here. Where did this go, guys? There we go. Zoom, share screen. We'll go in here. Nope, that wasn't it. Roxy, you were right.
Before you push share.
Optimize for video, I got it. Share, there we go. There we go. Sorry, everyone. Technology. All right, here we go.
We love being taken for a ride. We love to be told a story. We love to have our hand held as we are guided towards a reinvented world. We like to be steward. We want to relinquish control. We actually want to pay someone else to make the decision. Sometimes freedom means less choice.
How do we engage people to connect to that message? You give them an experience that leaves no doubt. People experience something that leaves no doubt, and they have to then kind of reset their understanding of what reality is. That reality is more than meets the eye.
The solution, they tell us, is to meditate and be mindful, all techniques that work to put us into the present. But if we could actually offload and dovetail the authorship of present moments to a third party, aka experienced designers, we could give rise to an entire economy, the experience economy.
The drive, I think, underneath the experience economy is to hearken a shift in behavior, a shift in how we treat each other.
We're interested in human flourishing, and so we're interested in staging meaningful, engaging story worlds. They go on this journey, they go through all the key stages. By having that experience, they come out of it being better people. And to steward people to have a particular experience, to then change.
It's really exciting to imagine how we can transform people with story, and then to execute and watch people shift.
We're here because We believe that change is possible. The tools are here to help people understand who they are and who they are being in the world. The way in which we create those tools and use those tools will fundamentally impact the way that our species moves forward. The true test is what kind of art are we going to use the tools to create.
All right, that's number 1, and I will pull up number 2, and then we are out of here. Thank you guys all for your patience and just continuing to be with us here. All right. That is starting without you, isn't it? Thanks everyone for your patience. Screen share, turning on. Share sound, share, here we go.
I think that people often think of a canvas as blank, but that's not really the case. When I think of a canvas, I think of the place that I go to put the best in me and then see what's reflected back to me.
A canvas to me symbolizes like the ultimate platform for art to emerge.
It's a place where relationships can form. It's a place where ideas can seed.
Spaces that engender deeper connections and deeper conversations.
A place for true consideration of each other, of where we come from, of where we're going, so that we can truly collaborate and be an ecosystem of support.
What's happening around us, if we design it well, has the potential of impacting who we are. We've forgotten how to use the unseen to shape spaces.
When land and community collide, what is created is culture. Land is a collaborator, and so as we form experiences, as we form relationships on land, that land inherently speaks to us, and it is that combination of the people in the land that come together to create the uniqueness of that place.
We want to design environments that when we enter into them, it's medicine in and of itself.
I think that it's going to be a watering hole of the different troubadours of our time that have something to say about what we want to envision for a more beautiful humanity.
It's important to me to create opportunities for people to gather with intention.
I'm here because I feel that I'm part of a movement, an experiment in co-creation at a level that I have not seen before.
I'm hoping that we can provide the tools and the atmosphere for special transformational art.
And to do that is to do it together.
All right, so thank you all for watching. And you know, the last kind of period I'll put on the end of that is really in that last line that Ashley said. Somebody asked me, I think it was probably 2 weeks ago, I was skiing with a buddy, and I was having an emotional moment, and I was kind of overwhelmed at a lot of the things I was holding, and he said, is what's supposed to come out of you? Have you communicated it to your team? Would they know how to do it? And I was like, yeah, I think like it's there. And he goes, okay, then what's on the tombstone? And that hit me, and I teared up, and I was like, oh shit. I thought back through my life, and I'm like, I actually don't know if somebody's asked me that directly, and that's not a question that I don't want to know the answer to. And so I thought for a minute, and just there was this resounding symphony inside me that just said, stay together. And so every efficiency that's created, every mechanic that's built, every technology, every stack, every production, every repeatable system, every piece of modularity is all to help increase the possibility space and the collaboration space between the people that I love, because I selfishly want us all to stay together and go change the world together. And so I love this entire group. I love this entire movement, and I'm very grateful to have been and continue to be a part of everything that is here. So thank you all.
You can stay on, Seth. I just wanted to say that I believe you are an incredible trim tab, and I see that as another line under your epitaph, like Bucky.
And thank you. I think we spend so long as creators trying to define ourselves. I remember you even messaged me earlier, like, do you want to send a bio? And I like feel my insides tighten up because I'm like, oh, how do I even like what? Oh, into this community, I'm just like, let's all just fucking create and just like let it ride. And
that's right.
If I can create some systems that help us out a little bit, great, groovy.
And I think that from the time I met you till, I don't know, probably till you're no longer on this earth, you'll be creating and experiencing and living in that immersive world with all of us and building for us. And yeah, we're just so lucky to have you in our community as a friend and as a colleague and as a compadre. With that, I think you're an incredible futurist, and I think you should meet John Picard, who is also a futurist who's coming on.
No, Seth, here I am looking at you on this small screen. And one of the things I was going to say today is I've been around, you know, I'm older than most of you. And I've had heroes over the last 30, 40 years. Ray Anderson, Daniel Quinn, Stuart Brand, Hawken, David Brower. Brower just completely crushed me. Just awesome. And my dad, you know, my dad was just this small piece of the moonshot, but he built the Saturn B1 booster rocket, which had one job to do. It had to get us out of the Earth's gravity. And the term was called escape velocity. And when I hear someone like you, and my opening line was like, God, Tom Chi's my new guy. He's my new hero. But I can't pick him now because you screwed that up. And it's just the last 2 minutes about you saying how you were emotional and you were pulling all that and watching Evo too, and to know you guys all work together. And look, I just got to be really honest. I don't fit in the space with you guys. My heart tissue isn't, I don't have that much heart tissue yet. You guys are all heart. You're so amazing. I have so much to learn, and I'm in the back half, you know. But I've been in this built world, and I was going to tell you a little bit about that and how some of it's shifting to the dimensions that you guys talked about. So I want you to forgive me for some of the things I'm going to say, because it comes from this place with a bunch of angry gray-haired guys trying to low bid the shit out of what's left of the planet. And they effed up everything. And I've spent the last 30 years trying to work with them, and I can't do it. I can't weaponize good in this place. I can't. All they see is transaction. All they see is monetizing and the for sale signs up, and we signed the deal and we're putting another for sale sign up. They don't even realize these buildings are what are killing the planet. And so, Seth, as you guys go into this new world of dimensionalizing stuff and having people be able to see at levels that we can't see today, that's what's amazing. Is like, it's how you forward position our thinking. It's that possibility and that position of like I have this dream about AI, that I think that AI, I want to build a software engine. I started a new company this year and I called it Generous. And I hope you love the name, right? And the whole thing is about us, people like us, getting together to pivot on things like this digital domain, right? The power of zeros and ones and the math and the science of it. And so for 30 years, I was in the green building space, and I was so frustrated. I couldn't get myself out of escape velocity. The weight of the money being made in the marketplace was so powerful. And so I realized all of this was sort of based on opinion. And so, Seth, when you asked, why did we go digital? You know, that was cool. That knocked me back. I'm like, shit, I don't know what to talk about now, because, you know, I think that The math and the science is missing, the true math and science. Before I die, I want to build a genomic AI code engine that can see the value of nature in just computer vision. I want to weaponize that. I want to create code that is bigger than we are, that can see and do things we can't do. And it's coming out of precision medicine. It's coming out of AI engines learning how to look at mammograms, to save women from unnecessary surgeries, to see disease in a different way. And I have to start somewhere. So my little company's just going to start working in airports to make travel less stressful and less of a fatigue. And I don't even know if I want to talk about generous anymore today. Maybe I'll talk about it a little bit. And I promised Faith I would, because people are in love.
Can I do one little context setting here, by the way, that might be helpful, and that I didn't tie well in my share?
Oh, you can recover anytime.
I'm currently sitting on, this stays here on this call, audience. I'm currently sitting on a 14-acre camp in the middle of Topanga Canyon that is being converted into an experiential innovation like secret hub that is going to replicate. And the process of meeting these conversations with these like heavy billionaire hitters. So we have real estate portfolios coming at us all over, and they're in a panic for stressed asset needing conversion, and we're saying we have a solve, and yet every single conversation still goes in to the bottom line driven mechanic that it's built on. And so I just want to acknowledge that, like, I hear the pain point, and decades in it I can't even imagine, and I'm
no, but your point is there's a huge shift. We're in this amazing transition, like post-COVID, right? We're no longer location based. We're not going to spend 2 hours a day commuting anymore. Not after I told Gina and the water world people yesterday, I surf with my daughter every night. Nothing's going to pull me away from that. Nothing's going to pull me away from looking at the curvature of the earth at the horizon line every night and just get completely ready for tomorrow. No way. I am coming your way, you guys. I'm so softening up and so starting to learn how to live, but I have been a builder. I have been, I'm someone who, for me, we have to build things so people can get their arms around it. But Seth, there's projects. I'll mention a few. Someone just bought 4,000 acres in Montecito. They're theming it off of the things you just talked about. All this, what's going to happen going forward, right? And if you guys get a chance, I'm not pitching my website or anything other than my whole life, my website sucked. My bio sucked. It never told anybody who I was. I was always a nervous wreck going into meetings, and I kept talking about myself, and it pissed me off. And I hit oil a long time ago, but I kept drilling. It was stupid. And finally, this sweet group called Seer World in Atlanta, they spent 3 months with me, and they talked to everybody I've ever known, it seems like. And they built johnpicard.world. And I'm calm. I was going to bring video. I was going to do all this stuff and bring it up to you guys, but you can go look at my website and you can see what I'm trying to do.
I just put it in the chat. And John, you're making your own introduction. This is beautiful. I think there's so much here.
No, I could stay here forever and just keep talking to you guys about the things you're doing. What was amazing was the pieces I felt so close to in everybody's conversation, from Roxy coming on. I didn't dance, and my wife's mad about that too, but I'll get there for next session. But look, let's look, state of the world. This is where I wanted to start real quickly, right? Living systems are in decline still. We're heading to 10 billion people. The earth can't reclaim its waste, right? That's the real kicker. Tom does you guys heard Tom today, right? I don't know what Tom covered, but you've probably all heard Tom talk about.
We will hear Tom tomorrow, actually.
Oh, so I won't give it away, but there's a reason Tom's my hero, because I've interviewed a ton of people. I've met everybody in the Valley behind all the big web enabling companies. Some of them are pretty good at what they're doing. A lot of them got lucky, and a lot of them were just in the right place at the right time. But the people who really are working hard to bend metal and change things and change the arc of where we're going, it's hard because you're alone. I just want to tell you how hard it is to be out front on your own and nobody understands what you're trying to do. And all of you on this, I feel like you guys are such forward thinkers, and it's a lonely place, but it is so worth it. You know, I turned 64 on Thursday, and I am so happy with my career path. And I have been surrounded by Dr. No. And the person next to him is Dr. I don't know. In the built world, they are just absolutely not doing the right thing. And so I went to the Silicon Valley to try to look at the problem differently. And I caught the Valley just spinning up into interoperability, Seth, and into the convergence of things. So I focused on energy. So yesterday, one of my companies in Spain, it's called Fee4, we signed a contract yesterday with the Spanish government and Volkswagen for 980 million to build a new graphene battery we've been working on for 5 years. Everybody's been laughing at us, telling us we don't have it. You guys are full of shit. You didn't hit your deadline. What's going on? And this year we cracked through and we built the mind cap, and we're halfway through our factory. The reason I want to tell you this is because for those last 5 years, I thought a lot of the time it wouldn't happen too. And I was questioning my partners and whether they're really going to pull this off, and was I with the right guys? It's kind of like a marriage. And for a minute, you kind of feel like, am I being told the truth? And why did I get into it? So I looked at Mario Cadron, my partner, and I said, Mario, is our dream alive? And he goes, oh, John, our dream is alive. You know, I love you like a brother. And I said, but Mario, the dream, you're talking big money and all these things. He said, John, I promised you when you promised me that you would help me, that we would build a battery that would do one thing. And that one thing is we would unlock wind and we would unlock solar. And I got to tell you guys, we're within days of demonstrating that we have a battery that's going to have the power density and the life cycle capacity with no lithium, no cobalt. You can't eat it, but it's really a battery that we have been waiting for a long time. It's not about 1,000-mile car or 1,000,000-mile Tesla or going from here to New York and back. It's about unlocking wind and solar. It's about building a waste to energy plant and storing that energy next to an airport and a data center next to a city to create that interoperability and have the inverters be multi-level where we can take in solar or wind or any kind of energy and really start to look at, like, every city and every building can store its own power. And we can really, truly not have a smart grid, but have the kind of energy independence that we've never seen. And I'm really heavy into graphene because of what it can do for water, for medicine, for materials. It can reduce the carbon in concrete formulation dramatically. And so you're going to hear some breakthroughs over the next 4 or 5 years in that from me. But still, the built world is super challenging. And this last year, I've spent most of my time with architects trying to convince them to get back to being designers and creators and leaders. And the reason they haven't is because they don't get paid for the value they create. So this year for architects, I explained to them that I felt that they were musicians. They were script writers. It was the same for me to see them design a building that was going to use less energy or maybe even give back, right? Maybe it is like McDonough says, buildings should be like trees, right? They should make more energy than they take. And maybe an architect comes along and cracks the code on that, or the building's just less bad than the one next to it. But they never get paid for that. They never get paid for the value they create. So I created a software company this year based in blockchain called Concert that allows architects to own their drawings and own the rights and own their signature. And it's in its very early stages. And it's really interesting. So if you can, go to getconcert.com and take a look at it. And these are the kind of things that are going to give architects a chance to get out in front of somebody telling them to do the wrong thing. Oh, I wish I could see you guys again. The screen shifted and all I see is myself. And I don't want to just see me. I want to see you guys.
We can all get on there with you.
Okay, good. I felt better. Anyway, there we are.
John, we would love to share your video if possible. It's a really beautiful video, and I think
I have it ready. It's so good. Can I share
You guys, really?
It's so good.
Cool.
Can you tell us a little story about it before I push play?
Well, look, someone told me one time, it says, hope, it's not a strategy in this business. I'm like, well, I went home like broken. I'm like, what do you mean hope's not a strategy? And so I've always tried to do this one little thing. Again, my dad, I don't know if you guys ever read Ray Anderson's book, Mid-Course Correction, but I gave Ray the name of the book because my dad gave it to me. My dad said a long time ago, he said, hey, John, when we were going to the moon and going to and coming back to home from the moon, we were off course the whole time. And I said, so how did we do that? And he said, we made tiny mid-course corrections. And that's how we got there and back. And so I see myself as just this person who every day I try to create just this tiny burst of hope in my work, just a little bit. I'll write a little bit more on code. So I'm trying to dimensionalize life-giving forces. I'm trying to put software engines and software safety cages around the value of life-giving forces like air and water. I'm trying to do that as I move along with energy. So I've got to get paid along the way to be able to afford to build these big sort of genomic engines around those life-giving forces. I want to be able to use computer vision and another software company we're starting today called Beyond Sight. And what Beyond Sight can do is it can see an apple and it can tell you what's in it, how much water, how much sugar. We use a burst of light and we collect the information coming reflected back, and we run that up into the cloud, and we run an algorithm across that, and we can look at things. Yeah, we can see if your Louis Vuitton bag's fake. I can tell you what your rate of your skin cancer is on your face. I can also tell your blood oxygenation. I can kind of create like a life score. I can even tell you what your true skin color is so that you can go get the right foundation makeup. I can do all that commercial stuff, no brainer. But what's interesting is I can start to see things in nature, and I can start to create mathematical value expressions for them. Like we talk about, a 2,000-year-old tree is worth X standing, and, it's going to take 2,000 years to put it back. Nobody can see the existing value of nature and natural systems. And I want to start and build a library of that. But unfortunately, I have to build these sensors and these sensing engines ahead for just buildings today and take generous and get it really built up. And first thing I'm going to do is see. And the second thing I'm going to do is sense. And the third thing I'm going to do is act. And the fourth thing I'm going to do is save. And if you guys could understand how lost we've been in even seeing energy, like we don't have any dimensional intelligence to energy, really. We are all over the place. I mean, Amory Lovins used to throw out all these really crazy numbers about how 90% of the energy we create just gets wasted. And it's even worse than that. And so all of we're going through a big shift, and everyone on the call is talking about where things are heading and what is the forward position of humanity. And I just want to tell you, I'm out there working hard, trying to bring the digital side, not from the tech innovation piece so much, but to be able to create an equation and be able to have the math and the science so that it can actually be proven. And a lot of what's been going on in the green building space hasn't been supported by the science and the math. So that's it. And there's so much I'm working on: decarbonization, all the modeling. You're going to see almost everything go up into the cloud, into what Seth mentioned, which is interoperability, meaning the skin of a building, like the glass, will be dynamic. It'll change colors. It'll get dark and light. It'll talk to the lights. It'll talk to the smart floor. It'll know how many people are in the space. It'll be completely geospatially sensed. And the building won't be any more or any less than it needs to be to do its job. And those are significant shifts because, we don't build well. And so I'm out there trying to attack the low bid. I'm trying to change designers to change the platform so that there is a value in real estate that's climate centric. If you can create a few buildings where the portfolio value goes up, and these buildings are better for the planet going ahead, and the market's certainly going that way. Seth, you talked about all these billionaires that are panicking. Those are my clients. Post-COVID, retail's done. Hotel industry, it's done. Commercial office is done. Exactly. No one's going to go into the office the way they used to. There's just going to be a huge shift, and so they're crawling all over the place trying to find a solution to bring their portfolio value back. And John, I've been aiming. Yeah, go ahead.
John, we'd love to show your video.
Let's do that.
We transition into the next.
And then we can come back and do questions or something.
Yeah, at the end we can do questions if we have time. Beautiful. Roxy, will you tee up the video?
I will. I have it ready. But yeah, John, we'll have to save questions for the end because we have a few more people.
Yeah.
But
no problem. I'll hang out.
Incredible. Thank you. And let's enjoy this beautiful piece of art.
Well, that was all right. Anyway.
Epic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, John. That was amazing.
You're welcome. Yeah. So thank you, Faith, for showing that. That just came out a few days ago, and it's actually going to be in 2 weeks. My site's going to be really interesting. It's going to show a 30-year timeline of, all these things, and hopefully some really interesting forward positions. So Generous is so I'm building digital twins of buildings. Do you guys know what that means? And I'm scanning the built world. So you know how autonomous cars get around, right? They have LiDAR cameras on them, right? All the way around. And so autonomous cars are really interesting. So they can see 7,000 more images than we do and process it in seconds. And you are so much safer in a driverless car. It's unbelievable. And Tom can talk to you about that too. Tom will tell you that if we can get autonomous cars, we're going to take 80% of the cars off the road. That's the way you need to look at innovation in technology. What can we design out that we just low bid overloaded the last 100 years? And so I'm kind of looking at it that way. I am very, very hopeful that we're going to write software that can see and protect nature in a way we can't. We're going to build new tools that go beyond us. And I got to tell you, when the math and the science is there, no one's going to mess with that. Right now, everyone's out there with an opinion, and there's just too much opinion about this or that. And when you come in with the math, it's
beautiful. This is beautiful, and it's opening so much conversation. We're going to transition into Michael, but we'd love to hear more at the end.
Yeah, no problem. I'm sorry if I ran over. I get
didn't
going.
Run over anything. I'm so my head's so blown out of it. It's like, oh my God.
And you guys,
I'm John. I'm fascinated.
And I'm not even in first gear. I just so love when I get a moment for you guys to listen. And let me leave you with this. My complete driving center. 20 years ago, I met Gregory Colbert. And he and I developed Ashes and Snow together and built a nomadic museum. So let me tell you where I really come from. all Gregory did. And Evo, I want you to feel this, because when I was watching the virtual worlds and all the things we're building, sometimes you don't have to do too much to get it right. So Seth, check this out. Gregory did one thing. He put an animal next to a human, and then he closed the human's eyes in the shot. Don't forget that. And I don't forget that as I drive through the Silicon Valley. Like, you guys think I'm totally heroined out on digital, but I am trying to build an engine that gets past us, because we aren't going to pull it off. We need to build a tool that makes bigger, better decisions than us. So MindSphere, the world computer, all of these things that are going to be in digital twins. And I see digital twins of people with, bio-nutritional markers where we have life scores. We're going to go into buildings, and Darwin wellness algorithms are going to grab you, Seth, and they're going to go, Seth didn't get any sleep. He drank. He came from Singapore 2 days ago, and the circadian light shifts, and we build a new, immunity shot for you. That's just you, Seth. It becomes you. And so I'm working on those things commercially, so I can experience how to customize these powerful influencing engines so that we can build things for the individual, close the eyes of the human, but then build one. If we get one software engine right, one piece of code that protects nature, we are on. Like, once that one piece of code's in, you can't stop that. And
okay, perfect. I think this is a perfect stopping point.
Okay. Sorry, I'm so excited though. You guys are such my audience.
Too, John, and I'm fascinated that both of you started with. I don't know how to define myself, and then you put out there 3 of the best videos and most articulate communications I've seen. So keep doing terrible, please, and hopefully everybody else will be as bad, and we'll keep doing this, because these jams are the reason that we're creating this studio. And one thing that this has made me think also, and this is the vulnerable share, is that we tend to try to bring all this content and pile up speakers, and there's like 200 people speaking, and I wish we had more time to just hang out and like have more of just a hangout. So hopefully we'll create more spaces through the year, less condensed in time, so we can create some of these. And I think that's part of what we're doing by creating Regenera, for example, Regenera Floating City. The idea is to create a space where we can all come together, all these brilliant minds come together and envision what's possible, and just like have these conversations. And I know, Michael, that we're on a similar path with what you guys are doing, because you see the power in envisioning the future and realizing what's possible. So I'm really glad to have you here. We've been following your work for quite some time. And so I'll introduce you, saying a few things about you. Michael is the founder of the Generative Futures Initiative. His personal mission is to empower and accelerate redesign of our failing systems to create an anti-fragile, anti-rival world, one world that works for all. He also is one of the founders of GFI and most importantly, Boldly Now, which is an incredible initiative. It's a movement to build a thriving future right now. And I think you guys are getting all the right language and the right ways to communicate. And we often talk in the studio about, this very powerful moment in human history in the 50s or so, when we had this massive wave of science fiction writers that just came in and started to talk about the future, and what they created these massive encouragement for all humanity that led to the 60s and that amazing decade of like technology and discovering new things, and then somehow we lost that, and it's so important to bring it back. And I think you guys are on that path of bringing back these like this optimism for what's possible. So super glad to have you here, and can't wait to hear your voice.
Yeah, thank you, Nico. Thank you, Seth. Loved hearing you speak today, of course. Dear brother. And John, I think the enthusiasm we can hear in your voice, and there's a quality of urgency of creation there. And I want to say that all futurists, myself included, have this driving curiosity about the future. But then we have this kind of sense of an itch of like, well, it kind of seems like it's going this way, but what if it went that way? And if it could just go this way, we could have this kind of turning point. And then you get really wound up. I recognize myself in you, John, very, very intimately. And in one of the things that's clear to me, especially at this point in my life, and especially starting to see young people really stretch their wings in creation, is that the future is not here now, like we can't put our hands on it. But we can tell a story about it, or we can say something about it from what we see. And most of the time, most of us humans say something that's an awful lot like what has happened in the past, or maybe some extrapolation or some forecast on what's happened in the past. And right now, it's pretty clear that if we forecast human beings' activity into the future, it does not look good. There are so many ways, and actually even increasingly effective ways, that we can end all life on the planet is a terrible end point, or all like recognizable human life on the planet would be, a little bit less terrible, but still pretty terrible. And so given that we have this predilection for looking into the future and often projecting and predicting what's going on now, one of the things that is very, very much needed, a competency that we need, is we need to be able to generate visions of a future, all the way from fantastical visions of a future, of dreams that we might have that might move us in the heart, to very practical things. Some of the things John was speaking about before, where we're able to imagine a future that's just in reach, but if we could achieve a certain thing, it would cause a large tipping point or a large change. But the imagining process and the ability to see and visualize that is a competency that we are not teaching people on the planet. We look up to those who can do it, but it's actually possible for every single human being, certainly everyone on this call, to be powerful in the capacity to generate a vision of the future and then get into action and realize that future. So we've started the Generative Futures Initiative, which we've spoken about. It's really about exploring this idea of generative futurism and what is our capacity as human beings and how can we teach that, increase that competency. And then Boldly Now is an educational arm that we have that's really about getting people trained up and having them get tools in their hands so they can dream big and then take bold actions to have them realized. I don't really want to talk about all that right now. I really want to get into an experience for all of you guys in being able to see time differently, such that you might have more affect on it, more capacity to get your hands on it. And not get your hands on it like we're going to give you a time machine, you're going to travel into the future and do something, but get your hands on the way in which human beings actually live in time as an experience that's altered or different from your experience of time as a day-to-day phenomena. And certainly different from the way that we speak about time in our normal language and the way that we dream in time in our normal day-to-day life. So with your permission, I'm going to do a guided contemplation. So it's kind of like a meditation, but there's going to be some new ideas in here that you'll want to just sit with and be with as you go through. So it'll be meditative in nature. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, please close your eyes. If you want to lie down on your floor, lie down on your floor. If you want to just watch the screen, you can do that. But together we're going to go on a little journey into time. And we're going to arrive in a place where we're able to be with time in a significantly different way. So if you'll close your eyes and feel yourself in your chair or on the floor, feel your hands for a moment. Feel some weight in your hands, like there's an orb in them, a ball of heaviness, cool metal. Feel the energy from that ball run through your body and into your feet, connecting you to the earth. Now I want you to take a deep breath and fill and hold, hold, and exhale all the way out until you're very empty. Again, deep inhale and hold 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale all the way out. Let all of the energy fall out of your body, all the thoughts slowly deflating. And inhale again and hold for 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale. And now allow your breath to return to a natural rhythm. I am deeply moved to be here with you right now, and deeply, deeply moved by the opportunity to take you on this journey. I want you to start with a simple question. Where am I? And whatever comes up, just recognize that and acknowledge it. You are precisely where you are. Feel your presence in space. It's a little extraordinary. You live in space all of the time, but somehow we rarely check into that. What does it feel like to be in space? You occupy a place that other things cannot occupy. The chair is underneath you. The air is around you. The floor beneath you. You take up space. Now turn your attention to a new question. When are you? When are you when taking up space? When is this happening? Just like in space, we live in time, but we don't really experience how we occupy time, or like a fish in the water, we don't think about time just as fish don't think about water. They don't spend time contemplating water. Water just is. Like the fish, we have a blind obviousness to time. It is all around us, but it just is. When is this happening? And when is this happening? And this. And this. I want you to take a look at this experience through a couple of different lenses now. The first is the really obvious answer to the question, when is this happening? Because it's happening now and now and now and now and over and over and over again. There's only one place in time that you can occupy in space. Yet in every moment of time, you occupy a different moment in time. We are temporal beings. We are of time, like the fishes are of the water. It is around us, and it is now and now and now. And from this perspective, any thoughts we may have about the past or the future are also occurring now. Bring to mind a thought or an image of yourself as a child. When is that image happening? It is now. And any memory you might bring up has to happen now. And if you think about the future, either a prediction about the future or a plan or a generative future, that thought that you have, that picture you may have in your mind, is happening now and now and now. You see, while we are now, we have an ever-present past and an ever-present future that is part of the now. In every single now, we have the instant now, we have an ongoing now that encompasses our experience, and we have the ever-present past and the ever-present future. If you ever want to travel through time, realize that you have all of time in you in any given instant. All it takes to travel is your imagination. Now we're going to take a look at the experience of time in a different metaphor. For a moment, imagine yourself floating on a river. And this river is moving at a steady speed, relatively gentle, but moving consistently. There's no rapids or things to deal with in the water. It's just a large body of water moving along. Get the sense of your buoyancy. Feel yourself floating. And as you float along the river, start to notice the shore. The shore is slipping past you. And you can navigate yourself in the water to look back up the river to where you have been. And you can clearly see the shore that has passed. And if you turn yourself again and look down the river, you can clearly see the shore that is yet to come. The further we look from where we are, the more difficult it is to see clearly. And this is like our future and past as well. If you look into your past of a child as being a child, you may see it clearly. The past from 100 years, less so. The past from 2,000 or 10,000 years ago may be pretty challenging to imagine. But if you spend some time, you can imagine that too. And likewise, the future is the same. We can look forward down the river by hours, moments, days, weeks, a year, and get some clarity. At 10, 20, 50, 100 years, it gets a little less clear. But if we look carefully, we can make things out in the distance. And the way that we do that, the way that we move up the river and down the river is completely in our imagination. You see, a memory is an imagination and a future vision is an imagination. These capacities to see beyond the current moment are part of our superpowers as human beings. And from this perspective, it's pretty clear that we will continue to move forward down the river from the past into the future. Or maybe said more accurately, we will always see the moments that have been, and we'll always perceive the moments that are yet to be while being in the moment that we're in. I'll say it again. We will always be able to perceive the moments that have been, and we'll always be able to perceive the moments that are yet to be while being in the moment that we are in. This is similar to the last way we looked at time about having all of time in now. But in this perspective, we begin to see that our ability to see in either direction, past or future, is intermediated by imagination. They are ever present, but their presence is dependent on our capacity to see and imagine. And yes, they're generated moment by the way that we see them. But when we look back up the river into the past, we only see what we imagine. And when we look forward down the river into the future, we only see what we imagine. This is a powerful perspective because it gives us agency. It gives us the ability to orchestrate our experience of life, and more importantly, orchestrate the actions that we will take in life. If through my imagination I can coordinate my path, then I can coordinate it to be empowering for myself, for my community, for humanity. And I can live to my purpose and direct myself towards whatever outcome I declare for myself as being important to the future, because it is held in my imagination. The future that you're heading towards is the one that you create, the one that you imagine. And the more that you can fill it in with details that pull you with calling and longing, like a lover you have not seen for years, but have a thirst for, the more you have that longing for your future, and the more vivid it becomes, the more that it can orient your present moment and have you take actions in alignment with that future. And if your future is generated powerfully, you may see all kinds of synchronicities and uncaused things that just seem to happen. But maybe those things would have never been recognizable without your imagined future. You see, we can stumble along in the now, in the dark, just one thing to the next, one reaction after the other, or we can constantly and vividly imagine our future. And if you think of your future as a series of moments that have not yet happened, and you recognize that you have agency in how and when those moments are going to happen, then it's inescapable that the work of imagination and visioning, so that your purpose is in alignment with the most critical things that humanity needs, is quite possibly the most powerful act that you can do now. So I want you to orient yourself in your imagination in your river of time facing forward. And as you look down the river, realize that the river is not a thin line connecting one instance of time to the next. Rather, it is a body. And you can position yourself in that body, and you can navigate from shore to shore, from left to right. You can determine the way that you swim down the river of time. And you can determine that to go where you want to go in time. And I'm going to leave you now for just a minute or two to float along in your river of time and to look forward and see that which is calling you. Now I want you to switch your consciousness from a consciousness of time to a consciousness of space. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your hands like there's a heavy weight in them. A silver orb, metallic and cool. Feel the energy from that metallic orb connect your energy back to the earth. Sense your breathing in its natural rhythm. Feel the boundaries of your body. Where are you in space? And take a deep breath, inhale and exhale. Where are you in time? And when you're ready, open your eyes and come back together. I have been playing with time and meditations on time for a couple of years now. And I find I don't need psychedelics anymore. The more that I get that we have a self-imposed limitation on our experience of time, the more I get that by simply turning our vision or our visioning to things that were previously unseen, the more they're completely accessible to us. We need visionaries of time. We need that science fiction writers of the 1960s capacity to not only see forward in time and bring back great tales and great inventions, but to dream our way out of the nightmare that the scarcity economy and that the transactional world that has been invented for us has created. Its time is complete. And the end of that story can be the extinction of human life, or it can be the reinvention of what it means for us to live in both space and time, and what it is for us to leave a legacy of beautiful impact, of wonderful gifts to our descendants. I choose the latter. Thank you guys for sharing this time with me. Love you guys all. So adore the work that's being done by everybody.
Thank you, Michael. Such a gift to have you with us. And I was like frantically writing in the notes for Nico. I was like, tell him how grateful we are to be connected. But now I get to tell you myself. I think that it is these visions, these spaces, these opportunities for us to, as Seth's video told us, be taken on a journey sometimes where we relinquish control and we can be in a space of trust and we can be guided into a place where we can quiet the noise and get into that visioning. That really helps ground the work that we're doing, or that which is inside of us, and pulls it towards something greater together. And that's the work that we've been doing together in the studio, and so many of us for all of our lives, and have somehow found each other in this time. And so I'm so excited to be connected with the work that you're doing, and boldly and in partnership. It is only the beginning, and I'm sure we have so much to learn with and from you. Thank you for the gift of choosing to do this with your time, to give us all this moment to propel into both time and space, as we are choosing the latter together.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so just appreciative for the listening and the capacity to transmit some of these things.
Thank you, Michael. And you have another session tomorrow, right? And
Yeah,
Friday.
We've got one for finding what is yours to do, a bit of a workshop, and then we're going to have a longer workshop on Friday on generating a future. Like, how are the ways that you generate a future? What are some of the kind of step-by-step guides to doing that? So and we're here. Anybody needs, elves in the workshop type people that can help you to figure out how to get things to go forward into being realized, how to get visions clarified, how to move the things inside of us that might be stuck and holding us back from bringing our gifts to the world. We've been really, really working on getting predictable and reliable methodologies to do all those things. So I look forward to meeting you all and spending more time just like this, and maybe even in real space at some point.
We would love that. Yeah, there's so many creators here within the studio and beyond who I'm sure would benefit greatly from this great work, studio included. So thank you for that offer and that invitation and your dedication to this transition that we're in with such clarity and grace. It's beautiful.
I want to offer a final gift. If anybody wants to ping me or email me, I'll send you a link to our movie that's probably we're just about to sign a distribution deal for We Rise Up. Tom Chi's in it. A lot of the kind of visionaries that you guys are talking about are spilling their guts on how to create, a self-organizing universe that works, how to give your gifts. So if you want to watch that film, just send me an email. I'll send you a private link and get you a link to it. I hate people having to wait to watch something that we finished 1.5 years ago, but
Can we do a screening this week?
we can if you'd like. Yeah.
I would love to do a screening this week during the launch. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, sure. We can set up something and live stream it, or however you guys want to do that. I'd be happy to do that.
Epic.
I'd be happy to answer questions. I don't really do that too much, but ask you questions at the end of the film would be fun to do as well.
Love that. Let's do it. Fantastic.
If I might just add one acknowledgement to Michael.
Seth.
Michael, first of all, just for your stewardship, like shamanistic Jedi type stewardship there of a body of us to go into the place that really matters, into the truth. And I really want to acknowledge how powerful that is. And I thought of this quote. It's one of my favorite of my life, and it just happens to come from Yoda. But he says, we are what they grow beyond. That is the true burden of masters. And I want to acknowledge your ability to propel others into different spaces. You do it with your film, but you are clearly a guide in so many other realms. And thank you, because it is true mastery, what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. Yeah, appreciate that, brother. Can't wait to see you too, like for real.
Beautiful. And Michael, I'm really, really excited that there's a performance that's about to happen with someone who's so aligned with what you're doing and has been dedicating his life as a machine learning engineer and a musician who's aiming to educate and inspire coherence through redesigning for the future our socioeconomic systems to reward probe social behaviors and promote collective well-being, and is constantly doing everything he can to figure out how to facilitate that transition. And so I think this is like a really exciting mashup moment. And I also inspired by this whole entire conversation. Right after that, we'll have a few like interactive participatory word cloud kind of slide things to like help integrate everyone and I'm very much inspired by your conversation and the one just before. So if you can stick around for a few more minutes, I know we're going over, but thank you so much. And Speaker John Ash, welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, say a little something, a little louder.
Hello? Is it not loud enough?
It could be a little louder. Try again. Oh, wait, maybe my volume is down. One more time.
So it could be a little louder.
Yeah.
Louder?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, let me turn
Tiny bit. Dun, dun, dun.
How's that? Is that
Yeah,
any louder?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, time, huh? That's an interesting lead-in to this. I was only going to play songs, but that's like such a perfect setup. I feel like I have to talk about my work for a second. And it's also a perfect memory because we're out of time. I'm playing in the overtime, and it's interesting because, in this context, of course, we have more time to go. The 7 o'clock is not the end date. But with humanity and a lot of things that we're barreling ahead towards, if we go over time, there's no going back. At a certain point, when we change the environment too much, there's sort of a cascading set of effects that are going to play out that'll become increasingly difficult for humanity to react to and to control, to make sort of a livable space. And so I've always been really, really interested in this idea of which voices predict things the best, which voices best understand the future. And the idea that we don't really listen to the voices that best are aligned with the future. In fact, we listen to the voices that are least aligned with the future, like politicians. Politicians are constantly having to make predictions in the form of promises, and politicians are consistently not following through. But we don't really reevaluate who we put in positions of power based off of their alignment with time. We do so based off of how much they tend to be willing to say futures that we enjoy or want. So we have all these people in positions of power because they're willing to spin tales of the future that we like. But there really is quite a bit more to it than that. And, there are things out there like prediction networks that work to use the wisdom of the crowd to evaluate the most likely things that are going to occur and the probability of those things that are going to occur. There's this thing called the Good Judgment Project, which actually works to assess which voices amongst a crowd are the most aligned with the future, who best understands how things are going to play out. There's also an application called Metaculus. And the work that I'm focused on is really trying to move beyond that. That I think it's relatively clear that we need to collect and aggregate our perception of the future over time, and we need to make decisions based off of how much our actions are coming in alignment with that. If we have a person in the position of power who keeps saying, this will happen, this will happen, this will happen, or I will do this, I will do this, I will do this, and it doesn't happen, and we're still following that voice, we are going to barrel down into negative futures because we do not have the capacity to move our attention towards the voices that are most aligned. And so I have this manifesto out there, I'm a machine learning engineer, and so I built out these models that aggregate the voice of the people, where basically anybody can share their views of the future and the views of what is happening. And over time, we collect at each spot like a collective perception of the future, and we can sort of compare that past towards the future of what actually turns out. And we can reward the voices that end up being most aligned with the future, and also the voices who take actions that most push towards the futures that people most want. Now I have like a YouTube, Speaker John Ash, that has all sorts of videos explaining this very, 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 very in detail, like how somebody would actually implement this exactly. There, over the last few years, have been some challenges in terms of the technology, but now the technology is here. And I also have a manifesto, and I've learned it's really boring for people. I mean, it's really hard to get people to pay attention to telling them to reframe the way that they think about society in totality, and that the way that we're framing and guiding collective action is wrong, and that there really is no way to break out of or stay within the frame of money as the motivator for how we basically move towards the future. If all we're predicting is whether a stock goes up or down, or whether a company makes more or less money, it's not going to be aligned with the futures that we most want. So I'm going to perform some songs for you, and hopefully you find it interesting enough that you go check out the manifesto and the video. And I just put together this arrangement of this song. So if I do not such a good job, that's why. As I was walking a ribbon of highway, I saw above me an endless skyway. I saw below me a golden valley. The land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters, the land is made for you and me. I've roamed and I've rambled, I've followed my footsteps in the sparkling sands of the diamond deserts. And all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. seems to me the only thing holding man to his land is how much he's going to carry out violence against his fellow man. What's a man to do when he doesn't have enough? What's a man to do when his neighbor has too much? You say that this is our land. I don't see it in the facts. It's something that you borrowed. We have to give it back. As I know the earth is dying, as we barrel on ahead. Say that this is your land till everything is dead. This land's not your land. This land's not our land. This is for the people who live within. How could a being on where they're being? For being can't be without a place to be. I'm gonna hop right into the next one. 40. The fuck should I do? What 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 the fuck should I do? Oh, everyone's eating the meaning of God, chasing the freedom to be what you want. Turn to the music and now you abuse it, cause everyone's trying to be on the top. And seeking the meaning of God, praise the people on top. You're weaker the more that you talk, so I know. What did you say? You think someone will change? I love everyone thinking they're gonna break out of the social decay. Praise the people of high pay, they're way out of crime, but you're stuck at the bottom. You better get ready to pay with your time. What the fuck should I do? What the fuck should I do? What the fuck should I do? Fuck should I do? What the 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 fuck should I do? And everyone's trying to be a big man, cheating and stealing is part of your plan. As everyone does it, you can't rise above it. You're playing the game, so none of you even exist. Back of my fist, taking a personal risk, selling your soul for a chick, taking a piss, looking into the abyss. Copy the people on top, breaking the law. But if you ever get stopped, lawyers won't do what you want, cause you ain't got money and power of God. You're seeking the meaning of God. You praise the people on top. You're weaker the more that you talk, so I know what you say. You think something will change. I love everyone thinking they're gonna break out of the social decay. Praise the people of high pay, they're way out of crime, but you're stuck at the bottom. You better get ready to pay with your time. What the fuck should I do? What the fuck should I do? What the fuck should I do? Fuck should I do? What the 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 fuck should I do? That's it. That's just the two songs. That's all I got today. Hello.
Feel free to unmute yourselves and share your voices. Thank you.
I do really encourage you all to check out the YouTube for the ideas that I was talking about. It ties directly into what Michael was saying, like directly. I just felt like I was rushing because I didn't have time to explain it well. And also go to cognicism.org. It's all spelled out there. I appreciate your time for listening.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we'll put it in the chat. Woo! Thank you, Speaker John Ash. That was beautiful. That's my boyfriend. I love him. Okay, that was incredible. So, all right, we're going to do a little integration, and then we're going to out into the world. There's so much going on today, whatever, the next few hours in the world of Regenera. So please go explore. But first, I'm going to turn on this fun little thing. There we go. And I'm going to screen share and show you. I took out 2 of the questions because it was getting late or early for you or past our time. Basically, I respect your time. So I would love if you would go. Oh, wait, I'm going to do this one more time. Oh, wait, I have audio on. Yes. Sorry, I want to put music on in the background because it's more fun with music. It's real. Great. Okay. So go to this ahaslides.com/refuture. Go ahead and type that into your browser. I can also put it in the chat here for you. www.ahaslides.com/refuture. Looks like 2 of you made it in so far. Where's my chat window? There it is. Good. 4 of you made it in. Okay, there's a quick link. If this is taking you too long, you can also just scan this QR code to get there more quickly. And seems like more of you are there. Great. Epic. Okay, so first and foremost, we're going to just reflecting on all that we've just experienced. Curious, what is awakened in you about the future now, today, through this conversation? Just take a moment to answer that.
So open up my eyes to a new light. I wandered round your darkened land all night, but I lift up my eyes to a new height. And indeed there would be
Beautiful. My purpose, not playing small. We have an almost infinite capacity to create futures and choose to create ones that bring thriving future for humanity. All right, we'll do one more. What steps will you take today to integrate and take action towards this future? We hope that this session has been inspiring you all, and it seems like from this, we could feel you taking bold action to collaborate and love each other and participate, to revise and rest, to be compassionate and dream big, to release and to design for behavior change, to believe in yourself and expand your heart. We are so honored to be in this container with all of you in this celebration of this time and this mission together. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What a freaking session. Please, please tune in tomorrow morning, Pacific Standard Time, for the PLANetARY Salon. Please go play. There's DJs on the Vision Train. There's so much happening still, more sessions. We have many cohort members who are not in the global north. And so there's sessions that are at different time zones. And depending on where you're at and what you're looking for, places to rest, to integrate, to play, definitely go to Topia. It is a place for synchronicity, conversations and wandering. So yeah, I'm gonna drop a link in the chat. Actually, Nico, you there? Do you copy? 1, 2, 3. Nicolas.
Oh, I was muted. I'm here.
Will you do me a favor and drop the link to the Futurist Cafe in the chat? There's a place called the Futurist Cafe. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you would like to continue this conversation, you are welcome to go there. The password is DSS, and we must close the stream and do all the magic behind the scenes now that we need to do, or else we would stay with you all here forever. But for anyone who wanted to continue to connect, please go there. And I'm curious if any of the speakers wanted to go and connect further tonight, so that people know if you're planning on scooting over there at all.
I might be on later. I'm very grateful for today. I'm going into another meeting right now with a whole other bunch of people, but I am so beautifully honored to share time and space with all of you, and to actually just experience time and space right in the middle of it. So, wow, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you all.
Thank you, thank you, thank you all. Thank you to everyone who shared today. Thank you, Evo. Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, John. Thank you, Speaker John Ash. Thank you, Nico. Thank you, Faith. And thank you all for participating. Seth, so honor and appreciate what you're doing in the world, all of you. And we look forward to seeing you more in Regenera. Have a wonderful rest of your days, and I hope to see you out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxy.
Cool.
Thank you.
Feel free to unmute yourselves as you go. Thank you for that shout out, lady. Ciao.
Thanks, everybody.
You.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Michael.
Peace.
Gracias, Roxy.
Nada, mommy. And save this chat. That was a good chat. All right, here we go.
Seeing this.
Hmm?
I said, I don't know. That's weird.
Hi, this was awesome. We're just so honored to be here and see you all, and hopefully sometime in the future we'll share also. Thank you.
Right.